Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody to the December 13th Oklahoma City Planning Commission meeting. And first, ask if you have pagers or cell phones, if you would silence or turn those off now. We would appreciate that. If you are not the applicant and you are here to address us on a case today, there are sign-up sheets. They look like this. They're on the table right outside the chambers, and if you would complete one and turn it in to our staff, we would be happy to hear you when the item is up for discussion. First today is to approve the minutes of our last meeting, the November 8th
Motion
meeting.
to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're going to get our lights set. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to approve, and the item is passed, so minutes are approved. He abstained. Okay, next is continuance requests. Russell?
We have three uncontested requests for continuance, items 42, 43, and 44. I've been the request to continue until January the 10th.
Did anyone come here today to talk to us about items 42, 43, or 44 on our agenda?
Move approval of the uncontested request.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the continuance request. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
There are three new requests for continuance. Item 13 is PC 10326, request to continue until January the 10th. Item 28, C 6410, has been withdrawn. And item 37, CE 835, request to continue until January the 10th.
Same question again. Did anyone come to talk to us about items 13, 28, or 37 on our agenda today?
Move the continuance.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve continuing items 13, 28, and 37. Cast your votes. And that's approved. Janice, are you voting? Okay, thank you. Are there any continuance requests from the public today?
Mr. Chairman, Dennis Fox, on behalf of the applicant, on item 34, 35, and 36, we would request a 30-day continuance. We are in the process of working with both Public Works and the Planning Department in regard to sewer and traffic issues.
34, 35, and 36.
Yes, sir.
Any other requests? Anyone come today to talk to us about items 34, 35, or 36, which is a comprehensive plan amendment in Ward 3? And you've signed up? Yes. Would you like to, first of all, would you agree to a continuance, or would you like to address us now? Okay. Anyone else?
Move the continuance of 34, 35, and 36.
And Dennis, you said 30 days? Yes, sir. Be our first meeting in January? Yes, sir. January 10th? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion to continue items 34, 35, and 36 to January 10th. Cast your votes. That's approved. Any other continuance requests? Janice, you look anxious.
Yes, I believe that we are going to continue items 9 and 10 for 6 months. These have to do with the street closing and rezoning of the current CNG site at 49th and Western. They're kind of a package deal. We've continued to work with the neighbors and talk to the staff. The staff is, as you may be aware, opposed to the closing of the street, and so we are looking at alternatives in terms of traffic calming and that sort of thing. But I think the consensus is that we really need to wait until the corner develops so that we can deal with a real situation rather than sort of a theoretical situation or abstract situation in terms of what impact that may have on the neighborhood and so forth. So I don't believe it will be anybody here from the neighborhood today because we've kind of talked all this out. and I think Mr. Box is on board with all that.
Dennis Box, on behalf of the applicant, we have no objection to the continuance. I would say for the record that a building permit has been applied for the development of that corner, and so as soon as the building permit goes through the process, I would anticipate construction starting on that corner. But we have no objection to the continuance if Ms. Powers wants it.
Are there any of the neighbors here today who have anything to voice on the continuance, items 9 and 10? Okay. So 6 months would take us to what, first meeting in June?
I believe that's correct,
Whatever date that might be.
whatever date that might be.
Did you make a motion?
Yes, I would move to continue items 9 and 10.
Second. Any further discussion? Cast your votes. And items 9 and 10 are continued to the first meeting in June.
First 7 items today on the docket are consent items. Item 1 is PC 10330. Item 2, C 6402. 3 is C 6411. Number 4 is C 6413. Number 5 is PC 10327. Item 6, CE 839. And item 7, CE 838.
I have 2 people signed up on item 2, so we'll hear that in order, and I think Mr. Box has something he wants to put into the record on item 2. Items 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, are anyone come to talk to us about those items today who have not signed up?
I move consent docket excluding item number 2.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket except for item 2. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
And item 2 is C 6402. This is the final plat of Barrington, Section 4 in Ward 8.
Mr. Chairman, Dennis Box on behalf of the applicant, and this is an item that the staff recommends approval. We can agree to all the technical evaluations, but I do want the commission to be aware that we have entered into an agreement with the Mulholland Homeowners Association, and it has to do with making sure that we have trees that are planted and that we planted at the location they want on the west lots that are shown on the subject property. In addition, we have provided for flowage which will take the natural contour, so portion of it will go south and portion of it north. We've also agreed that we're going to have a restricted covenant where the houses on the very west lots will be 1 story, and we're going to lower approximately 1 foot the lots that you see on that west side. So with that, we're here to answer any questions. Mr. Menifee is here, and Carlos Davila is here. And
Okay, we've got 2 people who signed up to speak, so we'll hear from them. Rebecca Wilkinson. If you would please give us your name and address for the record.
I'm Rebecca Wilkinson, and I'm a homeowner in Barrington at 19004 Shillstone Way. And I came to speak on the proposed plat because I noticed when we got the final plat a couple weeks ago that they had amended it to where they have not connected Chestnut Oak Drive so that it gives an alternative exit back to Danforth, and that is the main exit of the Barrington subdivision. I live on Shillstone, which is the other access road that goes out the main exit. Do you see on between Northwest 189th and Northwest 90th? They have no longer connected that, giving all the people who live on that side, that west side, an alternative exit, which therefore will still steer all of the traffic up and out the back at Shillstone. And that will increase the traffic flow there by at least 33%, whereas if that connects, then they have 2 ways to go out. I live on Shillstone. Just in the 3 houses that are next to me, there are 10 kids that live there, and they play, and people already down Shillstone are flying down that road at 45 miles per hour. I was out putting up Christmas lights last week, and the traffic was just, I mean, it's pretty constant that goes through there, and by not giving an alternate way out, you're affecting the safety of all of the people who live right there. Plus, it's a matter of convenience. All the people who live on that west side, it's a whole lot easier to just go out the back. So I would like to propose that they have to connect, or they please connect Chestnut Oak Drive so that it can connect and hook to 192nd and just go out the back, therefore splitting traffic and making it safer and more manageable for all of the homeowners in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out exactly where we're,
Can you point out where we're connecting?
yes.
No.
Not on what I'm looking at,
Okay, if
unfortunately.
you pull it back up, if you look, do you see where Northwest 189th Street is? And then it goes and it curves around and goes down Northwest 188th. And then Northwest 190th goes up and it makes a loop. And so 189th and 190th do not connect to each other. Do you see right there? They've put houses there. Other side. Right there. That is not a connecting street any longer. I believe in the beginning it was supposed to be. There was going to be two ways to exit out the back. Now they've only made one, and the only way is to go up that main road on Shillstone. Can you see where I'm talking about?
I see it now, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is a change from the preliminary plat?
When we bought our house, we were told both streets would connect, and that we would have both ways out the back, and that would split traffic. I mean, and that, I admit that could be realtor error because it was just a drawing, but regardless, only offering one way out for a neighborhood that has 194 houses out to that main road, I mean, to me, it's like a no-brainer safety thing.
Okay, but I just want to be really clear, I understand what we're talking about. We're not saying that Chestnut Oak Road does not continue on to the south. What we're saying is that it does not connect to what is now a cul-de-sac on the north.
Yeah, it's not built yet, but it's not built yet. But they wanted to, instead of having it just continue north, hook in, and go out that back, they want to hook it down and then put another loop up there. I presume so they can put two more houses on that corner. Again, it does allow them to build two more houses, but as it affects, the safety of the whole neighborhood, I'd just like to propose that they do connect Chestnut Oak into all the way, so it can connect into 191st, and we can exit out the bathroom both ways.
Okay, so my two questions are, am I correct in my assumption about where we're trying to connect or not connect? And is this a change from the preliminary plat?
Bingo.
It conforms to the preliminary plat according to our staff report. In other words, it was presented to us this way at the preliminary plat stage.
Is that right?
That's correct. This is not a change from the preliminary.
Okay.
We just got the final plat. The neighbors just got the final plat a couple weeks ago, so.
Well, ma'am, help us here.
Yeah.
You say it was designed to go through.
I was told when we bought our house that it was
Okay,
designed to.
some
So,
real
and I said, I admit, that could be realtor error.
Okay.
And so perhaps that wasn't a change. We were told, and as far as I know from talking to all of my neighbors and the homeowners, everybody thought that went through. When we found out this didn't go through, we were like, what? I mean, nobody knew until about 2 weeks ago when we got this letter, and that's when we were trying to figure out. I just know all these people on that west side, it's far more convenient for them to go out on Chestnut Oak and go out the back, and that therefore takes about half of the traffic of our 194 neighbors and puts them on Chestnut Oak and keeps about half up on Shillstone. And that divides it in half, which therefore will increase, decrease traffic on Shillstone, and it'll improve safety.
Okay.
I mean, do they have a good reason they aren't connecting it besides to put the two more houses there?
Just how they designed the layout when they presented it to us to begin with.
Sorry.
We weren't aware of what you might have been told.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like I said, I recognize it was just my realtor, and we had not seen this. When we bought it, it was just still a dirt there, and she just drew out what it was supposed to be. I know that. It was not until I saw this design just a few weeks ago that I went, wait a minute, that road should connect. But regardless of whether it's a change or not a change, it's just there is so much traffic on Shillstone, and people go down it already so fast, and they're going to build 58 more homes that are all going to use the ones they finish, plus, all of them except those first two streets are still going to have to use that one and only exit out the back. And so it just makes more sense to connect it so the traffic can be divided in half.
Okay. We understand your thought. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One more. Tom, I can't read your last name. I apologize.
I'm a resident in Mulholland next door, Tom Solori, 18725 Woody Creek Drive. My purpose for coming was to just, as Mr. Fox already addressed, reference that letter agreement, the side agreement with the developer, with Fern Leaf. I've got a copy of it if you want it submitted, but he referenced all the salient points, and that satisfies me.
It will be between you, Mulholland, and this development. That's a private treaty contract. It's not.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're not protesting anything.
Okay.
I do have one other point, just from a maybe future planning standpoint. On the north side, on 192nd, Danforth up there, their exit is right at the peak of a hill, and our entrance is just further down the hill to the west. So when, and I think we've recently sold some right-of-way for a bridge expansion over that creek that you see under 192nd. So I think that expansion is going to happen soon. I don't know exactly when. But when they do, you may want to take into account some traffic. As you peak the hill there, either they should cut the hill down a little bit to improve the visibility for cars entering and exiting onto 192nd, or consider a light. Just something to
Well, our traffic engineers are sitting in the conference room right behind us. So,
Oh, okay.
They will have heard your comments. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Dennis?
As indicated, we will agree pursuant to that letter agreement to do things considered. And in checking with Carlos Davila, the staff is correct. What you see in front of you is exactly what was approved on the preliminary plat, and we would like to stay with that design. We think the design is better, and so we would ask for your approval.
You don't want to consider connecting north on Chestnut Oak, running it through? I say you don't want to consider taking that Chestnut Oak straight north and
No, sir.
connecting to 191st?
No, sir. We don't think that would provide the benefits that she indicated, and it, negatively impacts some of the other lots. So we'd like to keep the same layout. And keeping in mind, this has been thoroughly vetted and reviewed by the traffic staff and planners. So thank you.
Question, Mr. Chairman, is, if it's a preliminary plat, is exactly like the final plat, what discretion do we have to change it?
Well, I think you do if you want to change it. You're not bound by the preliminary plat. People come in with final plat changes to preliminary plats routinely. Nick?
Well, then here's my other question concerning your concerns on Shillstone Way?
Yeah.
Is there any, desire by the developer or whoever is maintaining those streets? I know that the fire department doesn't like speed humps, but speed humps, stop signs at the various intersections.
I believe we've been in to ask for stop signs before and kind of got, I was not here yet, but I was told that they tried to get stop signs and were told no. And I would also ask that we get stop signs. People go so fast through there, and all we're doing is adding to the traffic. He says there's not a benefit, but I can't see it because you're sending 33% more traffic along that way because it's the only way out.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That if there's some sort of impediment towards speeding cars, and that's a little bump, and some time ago I talked to the fire chief, or whomever it is that, it wasn't Fred, but somebody else, who doesn't really object to speed humps, not big bumps, but fire trucks can go over there, and that's appropriate for a lot of communities that have a racetrack, and it does look like you've got a racetrack.
We have a racetrack.
And it really does. I think that that's a problem. So is that a thing that we can do to kind of
No. I
make a
don't think we can.
recommendation or?
Nick, did you have something?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Wright. This, it agrees with preliminary plat. Yes, we could change it. But I can see the protesters' point about Shillstone. I can also see that if you opened it up and ran basically straight north from 89th Street. That's also detrimental to other lots. I'm not compelled to change this. There are 11 lots that basically front on Stillstone, where it's a racetrack where we hit the semi-cul-de-sac to turn west. That's part of living on a collector. I live on a collector street myself. I wish people didn't drive that fast, but they do. And I don't think this is necessarily a bad design.
It's not just the speed, but it's the volume of cars. Just you've increased it by so much. And I recognize it would take 2 of their lots away, and I know that they did lose 3 with the Mulholland floodplain thing, and I know that's a difference of 5 lots from, what they had started out with. But it just seems like for the convenience of 194 houses that they're proposing to build in, because it's not just me and the speedway, as you guys called it, but it's also all the people that live on that west side. It does save a lot of time to be able to go out the back.
Well, I can see a conflict occurring at 191st Street and Dartmoor as well, as traffic comes from 2 directions and then seeks to turn north to get out. So,
Could I make another comment?
Yeah, sure, of course.
This preliminary plat was approved 11 years ago. That's a long time ago for people that have properties that have been affected by what it is that's planned today, that they had no clue until the final plat comes in 11 years later that this is what's going to happen.
Well, but they did have, this is total conformity with the preliminary plat.
It was approved January 2001. January 2001.
The point is, the preliminary plat was approved before anything was built. So you say these people didn't have a clue. Well, they in fact did. They had the preliminary plat. It is consistent with the final plat.
I understand, but when did you get your property?
I got that. I bought my property in May, and we looked on the county, like the site where it shows everything, and it wasn't on there. Like, we'd looked to see how it was, and so our realtor, I had thought, contacted the developer and had where it was still dirt and just drew out what it was supposed to be. But this final plat I didn't get until we got it in the mail when we got the hearing thing.
Ma'am, the point is, the final plat is the same as the preliminary plat, which Commissioner Bright just made the point, has been in effect since 2001.
Agreed. So 11 years ago, they might have thought this was a good idea, but now that we live it and we see how much traffic there is.
It's just, for a moment, to play the devil's advocate here. If you opened up what take those 2 lots out, run things to the north, what you do then, when you get up to 191st Street, you bring them back to the east, and you dump everybody into the one collector street, so now you're going to have people merging from the east and from the west trying to go north. That's bad traffic planning too, and I'm not a traffic engineer, but the point that was previously made, traffic's looked at this, the volumes aren't that great. It's consistent with the preliminary plat, and it just doesn't seem to be the time to be redesigning something that seems to work.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah. This is Section 4 of Burlington, and there's 3 other sections. There's 3 other sections that's been developed. So we're going all 4 of these sections approved in the preliminary plat, and this is just the last build out of it. Yeah. So it was already a part of the preliminary plat, and it's just been progressively being built. And when they approved the preliminary plat, they approved it looking at all 4 sections. And so they considered the traffic and everything at that point. So it's not a matter of how old it is, but it's just a continuation of a build out of a plat that was approved years past.
But don't get me wrong, Nick, the solution that you're recommending, I agree with him that it's really it would create the same problem there as it does over here.
Actually, it would divide the traffic in half, and so instead of everybody
Well,
coming out and go out the back, you just come, most neighborhoods have 2 access roads out the back.
But if you've got a larger or a longer racetrack on the west side than you do here, and so you're going to have the same, in other words, I think the solution is impediments to speed and stop signs and the control of the traffic. And I don't know if that's the developer's obligation or traffic or the city or whatever, but I really think that there's an issue here that with the development of the entire plat, you're dealing with the result of, perhaps, things that shouldn't have occurred, but they are occurring. So I don't know if it's the city that does it or if it's you guys or, just to do something to impede the speed and the stopping of the traffic that goes there, because it is a racetrack.
I think we need to get off High Center. I'm going to make a motion to approve it the way it was submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second then to approve item 2. Cast your votes. And it's approved.
We're on items requiring separate vote. This is item 8, ABC 773, an application by Chelinos Mandos for an ABC 2 at 10904 North May Avenue, Ward 2.
Name and address, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ross Dubry, 2220 Shadow Lake Drive, Oklahoma City, appearing on behalf of the applicant. This is an ABC2 overlay application for an established Mexican food restaurant that wants to add mixed beverages to the menu. It is in the Quail Plaza Shopping Center. There are already ABC1 and ABC2 overlays in that shopping center. We've received no calls, no complaints. To the best of my knowledge, there's been no protests filed, and the staff report has no unfavorable considerations. So I have nothing else unless commissioners have questions.
No one signed up, commissioners.
I'm going to move approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 8. Cast your votes, and it's approved. Thank you.
Items 9 and 10 have been continued until June of 2013. Item 11 is PC 10329, application by First National Bank of Oklahoma to rezone 1109 Northwest 50th Street from R1 Single Family to C3 Community Commercial, Ward 2.
Well, you don't get to talk about item 10.
Hello, Commissioner.
Steve, give us your name and address, please.
Steve Sherman, 117 Park Avenue, representing the applicant. And the city has, or the staff has, approved the zoning application with the proviso that the city obtain an additional 17 feet of right-of-way. And I was hoping to persuade the Planning Commission to approve without the right-of-way requirement, because to subject this property to the right-of-way or to reduce the property would cost a number of parking spaces. The applicant, the First National Bank of Oklahoma, and their president, Mel Martin, is here, has assembled property on the northwest corner of 50th and Western. They're going to build a beautiful 11,000-foot building, and they would be hard-pressed to do that with limited parking. And in support of requesting that the right-of-way not be required, I would state that on both the south and north sides of 50th, just west of Western, there is a checkerboard of lots where right-of-way has and has not been required during rezoning efforts. And additionally, the northwest corner of 50th and Western, there is only a 33-foot right-of-way on both Western and 50th. And so rather than increase the checkerboard on 50th Street and limit the square footage of what promises to be a very nice building, we would request approval without the requirement of the right-of-way, just so we're on a level playing field at the City Council.
Okay, we're talking about two things here. Item 11, Steve, is a rezoning application.
I'm sorry about that.
And item 12 is the alley that you're describing.
So let's talk first about the zoning application,
Okay,
which, as I understand it, we're going to amend to 02.
that's correct.
And I feel good about that. So The thing about the right-of-way, it's not something I have any expertise in or strong opinion about, except to say that I do not want to see 50th west of Western turn into a major thoroughfare. So unless there's some actual pressing need for the right-of-way, I'm not sure I see a strong pressing need for it here. And I'd kind of like to hear from staff about that. But this is generally something I wouldn't even give any thought to. It's like whatever they want's fine with me. But
We always request the additional right-of-way when it's substandard to our current standards. In this case, there's 33 feet east and west. What we can do, and it's really a decision that the council makes, what we will do is we can work with the applicant between now and council. There may be the ability to take a utility easement over a street easement so it won't affect your parking. But we will work with Public Works and see what we can do.
We'd be happy to work with you on that.
I like that idea. Is there anybody who signed up to talk? I'm going to move approval of the rezoning application amended to O2.
Nick, you have something?
No, I just want to make sure we were on O2.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve item 11. Cast your votes. The rezoning is approved. Now it's item 12.
Item 12 is CE 841. This is a companion item, same applicant, and this is to close an alley in the vicinity of this proposal.
Since there have been no unfavorable considerations identified for this, I'm not having a problem with it.
It's not a usable alley. I mean, there's
Yeah,
nothing there
it's
now.
not open, it's not being used, so I would move approval.
I would second that, and that with the comment that I assume that people to the north, the landowners to the north, don't have a problem with closing it either, so.
The antique store and the hair salon and those businesses there.
And I would assume, Steve, have you talked with them?
I've talked on the hair salon might actually be on the east side of the alley there. It's north of this property, east of the alley. That's owned by an LLC that Bill Patterson controls, and I have a letter from him supporting the application. I also, Mr. Mike Kahn is sitting here. He is in one of the properties adjacent. He also supports it. And I have spoken to Mr. Sign from Sign Construction that owns west of the alley, and he has verbally supported it, but we couldn't get a hold of him to get a letter.
Very good.
And
But
nobody's
no one's
protesting.
But they have
Nobody signed
notice
up.
of this, yeah.
And I frankly see no reason why they would, so.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 12. Cast your votes, and that's approved. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Item 13 has been continued until January the 10th. Item 14 is SPUD 691. This is an application by 23rd Equity LLC and F&R Holdings LLC to rezone 501 Northwest 23rd Street to a simplified plan unit development in Ward 2.
Hi, Mark Grubbs of Grubbs Consulting on behalf of the applicant. We agreed to the TEs on the SPUD. Just like to make one clarification that the signs in the staff recommendation TE that addresses the freestanding signs. The SPUD's put in place to assist with redevelopment of that existing building and area. And my client actually owns majority of the block of residential to the north of that as well. So if that helps with any questions he might have. I've met with myself and the applicant, have met with Commissioner Powers on site and discussed this. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Is there anybody signed up to speak?
No one has signed up.
I did meet with the applicant on site. The issues that gave me the most concern were the access onto 24th Street. But this has been both to design review and to HP. They seem to be okay with the layout and the uses and all of that. I'm a little disinclined to get into tinkering too much with the design that they have for this, knowing that it's being so heavily reviewed by others. They do own the residential properties directly to the north, and so that alleviates a good deal of my concern about the access onto 24th. This is kind of one of those situations where the most logical place for that traffic to go is okay for it to go. I mean, it's either going to go to Walker or it's going to go back 23rd. And so I'm kind of okay with that. in a situation where I might not be otherwise. And if there's not anybody who's signed up to speak, I think I'm going to move approval. I really like the sign control that they're putting on this. I like the fact that they're using the buildings that are already in place. I like all that, so.
Do I have a second?
No, Mr. Chair, I have a question of staff, just to clarify, in the PUD or the SPUD, whatever it is, the indication is the freestanding signs are 8 feet high, monument signs 100 feet. That's what you guys say in your materials. But the staff recommendation says the signs and building setbacks shall be in accordance with the applicable ordinance regulations. Is that different than what they're saying in the application?
That was a recommendation of the Urban Design Commission and the HP Commission. The base zoning requires O2 sign regs, which is the standard 8-foot tall, 100 square feet freestanding signs.
You clarified it. That's what I needed. I just didn't know what that related to. That's fine.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 14. Cast your votes. And it's approved. Thank you, Mark.
Item 15 is SPUD 692, an application by Clyde Davis to rezone 8815 Northwestern from I2 and C3 districts to a simplified plan unit development in Ward 2.
Is the applicant here?
This is the only item on the agenda that I have not had a chance to visit with the applicant about. But come on up. I'm sorry. But I've been by to look at it, and I'm not having any heartburn over it, especially.
Okay.
Tell us your name and your...
Mr. Davis, give us your name and address, please.
Clyde Davis, 8815 Northwestern Avenue.
Okay. No one has signed up, Janice, and I agree. It looks like an appropriate application.
I think I'm going to move approval, then.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 15. Cast your votes. And you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we go further, gentlemen, I have to leave you. I've got a plane to catch, and I've just come to do my Ward 2 things, and I will see you next year, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday, and
Happy holidays to you.
Happy
Soldier
holidays to you,
on.
too.
Travel safe.
Be safe on your trip.
That could take a couple years. When will you be back? Okay, item 16.
Item 16 is ABC 771, application by Midway Island for an ABC 3 at 5215 Northwest 10th Street in Ward 3.
Your name and address, please.
My name is Kim Cathy, 1503 East 19th Street, Edmond, Oklahoma. We're here and representing the applicant. And we are requesting an ABC 3 for the 5215 Northwest 10th Street. There's been a tavern there for about since 1970s, I think, 50s or 70s. I've had mixed information, but they're requesting an ABC 3 at this time.
It'll make a non-conforming use conforming, or a non-conforming use go away, depending on...
Move approval.
Second. There you have it. Motion to approve item 16. Cast your votes. And it's approved.
Item 17 is another ABC 772, application by 333 Choctaw 1, 2, 3, and 4 LLC for an ABC 3, 7501 South Choctaw Road in Ward 4.
My name is Randy Malone. I represent the applicant. It's Anderson Travel Plaza. My office is 209 Southwest 89th, Suite F in Oklahoma City. I don't know if the protesters are here. There's a couple of protest letters I know, and I just addressed that. I spoke with Commissioner Allen, and he suggested a meeting with the protesters maybe to address some concerns, and I think that's a great idea. We're very open to that.
Well, we do have some protesters signed up, so let's hear their thoughts, and then we can decide if that's appropriate. Anita Phillip, please.
Hi, Anita Phillip, 14815 Southeast 78th Street in Choctaw. I had submitted the formal protest. Hopefully you all had gotten a copy of it. And I would like to go ahead and emphasize a couple things in there. First of all, when we're thinking about rezoning, I think we should think about change, not just for change's sake, but for going ahead and accomplishing something better. And my first question is what value will this add to our area? Personally, I see nothing that it will go ahead and add. Also, how do the negatives outweigh the positives, or the positives outweigh the negatives? I looked at the staff report, and the staff report said that this was going to be a neighborhood sports bar. To me, that's a misnomer. It's in a travel plaza and a truck stop. That's not a neighborhood bar. That's for truckers coming in or for people coming into the travel plaza. We're trying to encourage people not to drink and drive, but if we have a bar right there where they're going ahead, the kids are going off to Wendy's, the parents are getting a couple of brewskis, I don't think them getting back on I-40 would be a good thing for them to go ahead and do. Also, they said one of the unfavorable things rather, is that there's rural residential areas to the south and west, and I agree 100% with that. We don't want this in our backyard. They said the favorable part was it was a site located within a truck stop facility along an interstate highway. Okay, right there, a truck stop facility, someplace where you can get a drink and then get back on the road again. I'm not opposed to drinking. I like to go to bars. I like to go to clubs. I like to do that. But this just does not seem to be the correct location to have this type of facility. It seems to me that we're encouraging people to drink and then to drive. And as we go along, there was a map I put in there as far as the different intersections that were getting onto Choctaw Road at that particular point. At times, it's a very difficult area to navigate to get onto Choctaw Road, and even if a person is not legally drunk, if they've had a few and their reasoning is impaired a little bit, I don't think that this should be encouraged. Safety and security is another big issue. What provisions have there been for additional safety and security? Truck stop facilities are known for drugs and for solicitation, and I'm not saying this one is, I'm just going with the general. And so how would there be additional security? What law enforcement is going to do? What is the facility going to do? Then there's the construction issues. In the near future, we're going to have the widening of Choctaw Road to a 4-lane. We're going to have building of Love's, another truck stop. We're going to have redoing of I-40 intersection. There's a lot of construction. People need to be in their best frame of mind in order to go ahead and navigate those. So I guess in conclusion, I would say, how would this make the best use of I-40 corridor? How would it make it a better place? What are the positives and the negatives? To me, there seems to be more negatives than positives. What additional security issues are there going to be to handle some of the things that could happen here? And how does this enhance the quality of life for the tax-paying citizens who live in this particular area? And what is it going to do to our home values? So those are our reasons for going ahead and opposing this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Helen Alverson. Do you have something to add to what we've just heard?
Well,
Okay.
I'll make it short and sweet because with everything that she has just said, my name is Helen Alverson, and I'm at 7612 Timber Creek Drive in the Deerfield Estates Edition. Aside from the list that we've made with Anita, the only other point that I would like to emphasize is that my property butts up to that truck stop. And so that truck stop is already in my backyard, and I would prefer not to have a bar in my backyard. I don't mind if we have one somewhere else in the area, but I have 2 granddaughters, and I would assume it not be in my backyard. Thank you.
I got a question of the staff, and when I first saw this application, the first thing that came to mind, do we have other bars at truck stops that you can recall, JJ?
I've seen some personally, but I couldn't tell you exactly where they are.
I was trying to think. I don't know that I know of any right offhand. I know that the store that's there now, you can buy 3.2 beer at the store. You know, and I mentioned to the applicant that maybe it would be best if we would have a little community meeting. As Ms. Phillips has indicated, there's a lot of construction fixing to go on at that intersection. And, you know, I know this is a sports bar. I know it's probably, you know, some kind of eating area and, you know, that you can buy a drink at. And I think maybe you have a letter in support of the bar. The man indicated that, well, you know, if I want to go to a sports bar, drive to Midwest City, get drunk, and drive home, you know, or you know, whatever, you know. So, but anyway, I think it would be a good idea for the applicant to meet with the neighborhood and just kind of go over what this is going to be, what kind of operation it's going to be, and I would like to attend that meeting if that's acceptable to you, and we'll have the meeting delay this until the next Planning Commission meeting. Would that be acceptable?
No objection to that.
What date is that?
January 10th.
January the 10th, is that fine? That would be my motion.
I would just say I see a disconnect between ABC 3 and a travel stop. I mean, it'd be hard to persuade me that that's a good idea.
And Jim, I travel I-40 all the time, back and forth to New Mexico, and have stopped to get gas at virtually every truck stop between here and there. There's not a bar in one of them.
I don't think, I couldn't recall any.
Not any place where, I mean, and this is a bar. This is full tilt, mixed drinks, you know.
It is.
And so for that reason, I just can't see popping in there and then getting back in a car after you've had a couple of whatever they are and drive carefully. I wouldn't, no matter what they say, I can't really support this.
Well, and I kind of feel the same way, but I think we ought to give the applicant an opportunity to talk to the folks. And, you know, like I said, you know, there's a huge amount of construction in the next 2 years that's going to go on that intersection. I think we really need to pay attention to what's going on there, okay? My motion is to delay it until January the 10th.
Your Honor, motion and second to approve the continuance to January 10th. Cast your votes. And it's approved.
Item 18 is ABC 774, an application by Upper Crust Edmond LLC for an ABC 2 at 1205 Northwest 178th Street, Ward 8.
Dave Zimmer, representing applicant 3101 West Tecumseh, Norman, Oklahoma. And this is a ABC overlay for a restaurant with incidental sale alcohol. House Smith Restaurant Group owns it, operates it, and to my knowledge, we have not had any kind of complaint or anything about this.
Well, it's a family restaurant. No one has signed up, Commissioners.
Second.
The motion is second to approve item 16, or 18, excuse me, cast your votes. We have a couple items with variances today, and for those applicants, we do not have 6 members here. We will not be able to approve variances today.
Item 19 is P01-10328, application by City Center Development 2, LLC, to rezone 321 North Oklahoma Avenue from PUD 1078 to the Downtown Business District, Ward 7.
Mr. Chairman, Dennis Box. I'm here with Richard McCowan, who is the developer of this property, and Chris Anderson, the engineer on this project. We're disappointed that we can't get the plat approved with the variance, but we can at least deal with the closing and the zoning, and maybe the plat. I'll let Richard decide how we deal with that. Maybe we come back. But this is an application where, if you all are familiar with the level, this property is directly to the west of the level. It's a little over an acre. Mr. McCowan and I have had several meetings with the residents, and we have had the pleasure of meeting with Mr. Williams in regard to this development. The level has been a success story for downtown Oklahoma City, and this is going to be an extension of that. In 2005, there was a PUD that was approved, but it dealt with a number of acres and different properties, and so a lot of different issues.
Oh.
Maybe we can now deal with plat.
Oh,
thank you, Mr.
back
Wood.
up to 6.
What we've done is we came back and for this acre, we looked at in 07, 2 years thereafter, your planning staff did a very good job of coming in downtown and deciding what regulations were appropriate. So we are asking that we be zoned for the downtown business district, which is a zoning district that came in 2 years after the PUD, and it would take care of the needs that we have. In addition, we are asking that you close a sewer line easement, and it also has a water line that we'll make sure is relocated. The sewer line has already been taking place as part of the city services, and so there's a sewer line to the south. And with regard to the platting, now that we have the numbers, we're platting the area that you see in front of you, and also the area that includes those townhouses. I don't know if there's anybody that signed up to protest, but we've had several meetings with the surrounding neighborhood groups, and it was very positive. Except for I did learn that Mr. McCowan's not, he's in theory green, but he's not real good at replanting trees. We had some trees die, and that was the major topic that was discussed. But the development plans were all acceptable, as far as I know.
Okay, no one has signed up, Commissioners, on item 19.
I have one question of the staff, or Dennis, just for clarity. Why are we going from a PUD to a downtown business district zoning, street business district zoning?
The PUD was put into place in 2005. It dealt with a much larger area, but it was an attempt to be able to accomplish the same guidelines and goals that the central business district came into play with 2 years after that. So since we're only developing an acre, we decided to go ahead and zone it for the downtown business district, which we think is appropriate.
It would affect things like setbacks, wouldn't it? And, build 2 lines and so forth. And in order to be consistent with what the level has done next door.
Their application's in full compliance with the downtown zoning, and we would prefer to have the straight zoning. We tried to convince Mr. McCowan to do that on the first phase, but now he's seen the wisdom of our ways.
He's come around, has he?
It took us a while. He had a lawyer that was a little slow, but...
Okay, I just wanted for clarity, because one thing, going this route, we don't get opportunity to see a site-specific development and this type of thing, but...
Yeah, but it does go through design reviews, so, we've had a look at the preliminaries, and I can't imagine there's anything in there that's going to cause any issues.
And I agree. I looked at it, and I'm real pleased with the
Except
development.
for landscaping.
And I think it really...
I've seen it too, all but the trees, but...
Yeah, except for the dead trees. So, if no one else, I move that we approve the application.
Okay. Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item 19. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
And item 20 is a companion item, CE 840, to close the platted utility easement right away.
And no one has signed up, and that's just closing the other half of an already closed easement.
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second to approve item 20. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
Item 21 is the final plat of the same project.
And we do agree with the technical evaluations.
And we do have a variance to TE number 4.
Oh, move approval of the variance, TE number 4.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Buck came back.
Yeah, good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the variance to TE4. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
Move the application.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve item 21. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
Item 22 is PC 10323, an application by Cobblestone Developers LLC to rezone 8200 West Memorial from PUD 1175 to the R1 Single Family District, Ward A.
Good afternoon, Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates, representing the applicant. If you'll recall, when we had the preliminary plat before you, we discussed the fact that the two different PUDs had a little bit of a conflict with regard to access to this property. So the staff, at the staff's recommendation, we've come back before you with a rezoning to straight R1, and there are no TEs. Be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question for the staff. In the report, in the application, or in the staff report, under B, conformance recommendations, here's what you say. The applicant has indicated their desire to vary the requirements to install sidewalks, which is not supported by staff. Sidewalks are a valuable piece of transportation system and are required to be installed, et cetera, et cetera.
Bob, they're required by the R1 zoning being applied for. That has no bearing on this application.
So
R1 requires sidewalks, period.
Oh.
Okay. I'll take a motion.
Then what's the purpose of this language?
It's just to reinforce, I guess, to the applicant that we're going to have sidewalks.
We'd heard that the applicant may want to go to the Board of Adjustment with a variance to sidewalks. So we were just putting them on notice that that's something we really wouldn't support.
That's just going, you've got to do it. Okay.
We understand that. The discussion we had with the staff was regarding the sidewalks on Memorial, where our lots back up to Memorial.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So.
Okay.
You thought we were slipping.
Yeah. I need a motion. No one signed up. We have a motion and a second to approve item 22. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
Item 23 is a companion item. This is C-6414, the final plat of Cobblestone Cove, Section 1.
Again, Tim Johnson on behalf of the applicant. We have discussed the technical evaluations with the staff, and the only change that we'd like to make is on item number 6. They're asking for access to Common Area A. We would like to put that in our next section to the southwest. Because of the spacing of the lots in this new section, we've set them up exactly the way the builder needs them. If we have to move a line, it will mess up the lot layout. We agree on the record that we will put it in our next section to take access to A.
So we would amend TE6 to incorporate that language.
We can.
That access will be provided in the next phase.
Yeah, we would agree to that.
Commissioners, no one has signed up. Any questions or discussion?
I move approval of the application with the amendment to item number 6 to provide access.
Second. Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve item 23 as conditioned. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Item 24 is C-6406. This is a preliminary plat of Kingsridge West in Ward 3.
Barry Lodge, Red Rock Engineering, representing the applicant, and the applicant is present as well. Rocky Clark is here if we have any questions that need to address to him. We have met with staff a couple of weeks ago concerning this application, went over the comments that they had had on our preliminary plat, reviewed the staff report and the TEs that are contained in there, and we don't have any objection to those TEs. We agree with that. So,
Buck, we have some questions about traffic report, don't we?
Yeah, I think we do. We were going to ask traffic to come in and discuss this. Yeah, I think there's some questions about some of the information in the traffic report. Magically appear in a minute. Stuart, we were talking about the traffic report that was done for this application, and I think some concerns that we have, or that you guys have about it, and wanted to discuss that.
Well, I think primarily the application itself was originally for a subdivision that's supposed to be 379 lots. There's discussion in the TEs about limiting it to no more than 100 lots. The study that we have in our possession doesn't address impacts that would be created if you just had if you were just to permit 100 lots. By the same token, the study wouldn't be able to address the impact if it's just limited to 100 lots, if they're all coming out on Southwest 37th Street, what the single impact would be at that point. But the other thing we have is the level of service that's at Southwest 44th and County Line, because right now that intersection functions at a level of service D, and with the additional traffic width, I believe like the 100 lots shouldn't degrade it anything below that, but the goals of the comp plan is to not have in this particular area of the city is not to have an intersection functioning at anything below a level of service C. So we're at a situation where no improvements are being proposed over at 44th and County Line. There's also nothing in either the 2000 or 2007 bonds that would address this particular intersection. So it's, as a result of I think the issue before you is how do you mitigate traffic impacts in an area where there's no public funds that are currently in the pipeline to make any improvements.
Stuart, can you describe the roadways there now and the intersection? I mean, what are the conditions there today on the ground?
Well, it's just two-lane roadways. As far as pavement condition goes, I have to consult with my colleagues in Public Works relative to like the
I think Buck can add to that.
I drive County Line every day, and I can tell you that it's a two-lane, no shoulders, no lines, potholes all over the place. It's not in very good condition. And so the concern obviously is the impact of adding 100 or 300 or however many more lots, in addition to everything else around it that's been approved, without any type of improvements to the streets and the intersections, which are already failing, the plan requirements.
So I think what I'm hearing is we'd like a more specific traffic plan to address what you're talking about doing and what you would propose to do to alleviate the additional traffic that you would generate.
Yeah.
I mean, something needs to be done with that intersection and those roadways, at least where your folks would be.
I guess the question would come up to maybe repeat something that Stuart said, without public funds being appropriated for the improvement of that, who bears the responsibility for that improvement? Does that all fall to this development of 101 lots or 379 or 350, however many they are, without consideration of the other developments that have gone on in that area that are contributing to the traffic problem as well? I mean, should that responsibility go to one developer only?
I understand the issue, and the other flip side of that is, should we be making it any worse than it already is? I mean, on the other side of the question, I mean, what responsibility do we have there? I mean, it looks like the infrastructure is having difficulty supporting what's already there and allowed, and we would just be adding to that. So we're going to wind up with level E and F service at those intersections and substandard roads. I don't know. I'd certainly like to know more about it.
Yeah. So if you'd like to continue it, and we can look further at that.
We can continue that and have some discussions, and maybe we meet with Stuart and some of the city staff to discuss some of that, see if we can come up with a solution that appears to be workable for the city and for the developer as well.
Where's William Sharp? You raised issues concerning drainage. We're going to continue the item.
Okay.
So I would ask you to get with the developer and the developer's engineer.
We have talked with him before, and it sounded like the drainage really hadn't been addressed that much at that point, and also with the city engineer, Curtis Liggins. And so we're hoping that at some point they can discuss that with us, because we have the farm to the north.
Okay, well,
are concerned with that.
I'd ask you to meet with Mr. Sharp as well during the period of the continuance. We're talking about a minimum of 30 days because our next meeting is January 10th, and
Yes.
whether that's enough time or not, I don't know.
Yeah. Brock? What do you think, Barry?
I'd say we'll continue to the 10th, and then if it looks like we're going to run into issues that we can't get resolved by that time, then we'll get in touch with planning staff and defer it beyond that. But I think that should be sufficient. I have met with Mr. Sharp and his sister concerning the drainage issues, and I think the developer and us are willing to work with them to come up with a solution that we can all live with. So we just haven't gotten to the point yet in the design where we've determined how all that's going to function at that point. But we'll work with them.
Well, good. I'll move we continue this to January 10th.
We have a motion and a second to continue item 24 to January 10th. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
And it's continued. Thank you.
Item 25 is C-6408. This is a preliminary plat of Hampton Park in Ward 7.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Gray with Craft & Toll, representing the applicant. We have received staff's comments regarding our proposed application, and we agreed to the TEs. Regarding the item that requires a variance, this particular property already has a single point of access through Sunny Hollow Road to the north, and that's the only means of access. So it's a unique hardship that's creating our need for that variance.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Gray. There will be sidewalks in this
That's correct.
project,
Yes, sir.
and you've got 15-foot setbacks from building front lines.
Yes, sir, according to the PUD.
And if I pull my car up to my driveway and park it nose to the garage door, I'm going to both block the sidewalk and possibly extend into the street right away, am I not?
There would be the potential for the overhang. However, when you take a 50-foot right-of-way that would be provided with the public streets for this application, that leaves you approximately 12 feet remainder between the property line and the curb, where the sidewalk could be adjusted to be behind the curb or just a few feet off the curb, so sidewalk pass could pass.
You'll undertake to do that as a part of what you're doing here?
Yes, sir. We can position the sidewalks so that they're at least 18 feet away from the garage.
Yeah, because I have a real problem going around town and seeing sidewalks blocked and people can't walk. Kids can't ride their tricycles, people can't walk their dogs, can't push baby carriages and so forth. Commissioners, any other discussion or comments? No one has signed up. There's a variance to TE2.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on this T number 3. I know he has to provide this information, but I'd like him to speak to that emergency access connection to the south.
Yes, sir.
It looked like a stub is out of Valley Section 7, but I don't see any connection out of your subdivision to that.
The PUD for this property was rezoned to an R4, O2, R2, and R1 underlying zoning district. And the intent of that PUD was to provide multifamily uses. I believe that during the course of having that PUD approved, there was strong opposition to those residents using Sunny Hollow to the south. And so they requested that there be no access from between their addition and this one. However, the fire department is requesting an emergency access point, and we're landlocked. That's the only place that we can have an access. So we are proposing an emergency access easement that would connect to Northwest 175th on our plat that would have a crash gate for emergency access only.
To 175th?
It would connect Sunny Hollow Road to the south through a emergency access easement north to our 175th Street. And we've reviewed this with the fire department, and they are agreeable to it.
So you're not going to build on that lot?
There'll be an easement. The lot will be wider than necessary to accommodate both the easement and a buildable lot.
Okay, well, we have the T that you'll have to confirm it to the staff, so I just was curious because I didn't see what you was trying to do. Be that as may, I move to approve the variance on TE number 2.
Okay, we have a motion and second to approve the variance TE2. Cast your votes, and the variance is approved.
Move the application.
We have a motion and second to approve item 25. Cast your votes, and you're approved. Thank you.
Item 26 is C-6403, final plat of Cerro Road Industrial Park in Ward 1.
Terry, you got the change in language on the sidewalk or the setback? Thank you.
Hi, I'm David White, representing the owner. We agree with the staff report. We need a 54-foot variance on our cul-de-sac. Preliminary plat was approved, I believe, in '08, and I believe your rule on length changed since then, but we'd hoped we could obtain that and leave it like the preliminary plat.
Okay, well, we have a variance to TE3.
I move approval of the variance on TE3.
Second. A motion and a second to approve the variance. Cast your votes, and the variance is approved.
Move approval of the application.
Second. And we have a motion and a second to approve item 26. Cast your votes, and that's approved as well. Thank you.
Item 27 is C-6404, final plat of Lawson Farms in Ward 1.
Lindsay Settle with Craft and Toll, representing the applicant. We've read through the staff report and are in agreement with all of the TEs.
No one signed up, Commissioners.
Move approval of application.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 27. Cast your votes, and it's approved. Thank you.
Item 28 has been withdrawn. Item 29 is C-6401. It's the final plat of Hidden Creek, Section 6, in Ward 8.
Tim Johnson with Johnson & Associates on behalf of the applicant. This is a final plat of the preliminary plat you all approved, and we agree with all the TEs. The staff, I believe, is going to reword TE number 3. They have it? Okay. And it has to do with there was a private agreement between the two parties, the Preston Hills to the north and the previous owner of this tract of land to the south, and we've been working with them on revising the language to match with there's some new players in the neighborhood, and they wanted to amend the language.
And it's my understanding that this revised language, which I guess J.J. will enter into the record, satisfies the staff's concerns that were expressed in the report. Okay. This replaces TE3, I guess?
Replace TE3, and it'll just require a resolution of the easement, and new easement being approved, and the one that's existing being vacated before we send it to council.
Correct.
Okay, so
with that
change,
the deferral.
Yeah.
Okay. I move approval of the application with the substitution of TE3 as submitted to the chairman.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 29 as condition. Cast your votes, and it's approved. Thank you, Tim.
Item 30 is CE-837, application by Dow Center Garage. Close a portion of Northwest 4th Street in Ward 7.
I am the applicant representing Dallas Center Garage, LLC. My name is Richard Dowell, and our office is at 601 North Walker in Oklahoma City. Okay, well, first of all, just let me ask, we didn't have any protests, did we, to this?
No, not aware of any.
Okay. Do you want me to explain to you what we're doing here?
Well,
It makes sense to me.
I think I understand it.
It's very logical. I move approval of the application.
Second. Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve item 30. Cast your votes, and you're approved. Thank you.
Item 31 is SPUD 693, an application by Michael Blackwell to rezone 8620 Southwest 74th Street from PUD 1162 to SPUD 693 in Ward 3.
Good afternoon. My name's Dan Cromwell. I'm an associate with Mr. Blackwell, who is also present, the physical property owner. And this item is on your agenda, Commissioners, at the request of the property owner. The original PUD is about 6 years old. We are moving into an expansion project, hopefully doubling our employment base. And we came back into staff to review because a lot of things change in 6 years, and based on their recommendation, this item's been added to ensure that we move forward within the proper framework that the Planning Commission has established. Really, thanks to staff, this is pretty straightforward. The only item we may have that differs is we've got a $23,000 investment in an existing fence that's metal, and as we move forward, we would like that fence to remain. Our justification for that is we're good neighbors. As you can see, there's a petition from property owners, of which 40% of the property owners are within 300 feet of the facility, and we think it serves its purpose that the fencing requirement is, though we are mitigating its impact with some additional landscaping. If the commissioners have any questions, we would be more than happy to answer them at this time.
We do have someone signed up, Commissioners. We'll hear from the protester, and then we'll have you come back.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Eplin, if you would give us your name and address for the record, please.
Troy Eplin, 8605 Ambassador. First thing I wanted to say is this is a gun range is what they're wanting to put in 30 feet behind our house. We have one entrance coming into our addition, same entrance that they have to use. The increased traffic since this has been put in, these people are visitors coming into our neighborhood. They flip in and out. I myself have almost been hit a dozen times or more. It's not that I'm against guns and ammo. I'm for them. I'm just against them being in my neighborhood. This was a neighborhood first, a strip mall second. I've talked to a lot of my neighbors. We're all against it. We've been, told that if we go against this, that we will have Section 8 housing, 3-story Section 8 housing put in that spot looking down in our backyards. And that's, this is a neighborhood first. They came in, and if you look at all the land that's around that area, why they put it in this neighborhood is beyond me. The first time we made concessions, as far as good neighbors, they don't care about our neighborhood at all. We really believe that if you let a gun range be put in our neighborhood, it's going to devalue our homes. My final question to you guys is, would you guys be okay with a gun range 30 foot behind your house where your children and your grandchildren play? Totally against it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Cromwell, you're back.
Thank you, sir. As noted earlier, there is a petition attached with this of residents in the neighborhood that are in favor of this project. I will note that this project is significantly below grade. The purpose of this project, once again, is expanding requests from our customers both in law enforcement and military and federal. As some may know, there's a National Guard Super Center just down the road from us, and this realistically is not a gun range in the traditional sense of skeet range. It's an indoor military law enforcement grade facility specifically geared for education and compliance. So as an example, concrete walls, insulation, air turnover every 37 seconds or 86 seconds. And we are currently firing in the facility that's existing because we test fire repairs. I mean, it is not something that should be a burden on the facility, on the neighborhood at all, i.e., once again, our outreach effort through the petition to make sure that the residents were understood what we were doing. We are not in any way trying to surprise anybody here.
Could we, could Mr. Blackwell come up and talk to us? You might want to give your name and your address.
Mike Blackwell, the owner of Big Boys Guns and Ammo, 8620 Southwest 74th.
Could you tell us a little bit about the operation, hours of operation, how you address the noise issues and those sorts of things?
The noise is not going to be an issue. This is going to be a concrete 6 to 8 inch wall building with 6 inches of foam rubber or foam on the top of the roof. It is literally a military and police grade range. We're spending as much on the range equipment and the design of this range as we are on the building. So the sound abatement is not going to be an issue. And like Mr. Cromwell mentioned, today we still discharge firearms on a daily basis in that range, or the store, and we've had no issues up to this point.
What are your hours of operation going to be for the
10 to
gun
6
range?
currently right now. We were planning on 10 to 8.
Which direction will the range, what direction will you fire?
The lay of the land, the building actually will set down into a hole. Right. We were shooting to the west, which is about 15 feet lower than grade, city grade, and the houses directly behind us are going to be at least 10 to 15 feet above
well,
where
they're
we're
coming to
ranged.
the south, too, aren't they?
Just a house to
well,
the
there's
southeast.
one house that would be to the west.
But it is at about 15 feet above grade where we're going to be shooting.
Yeah.
The containment of this range is being designed by the best range designers in the nation.
When you fire into that wall, what's the thickness of the wall?
Well, we're not shooting into the wall. We're shooting into a containment trap.
But there's a wall behind that, though.
Yes, it's going to be a 6-inch wall. With it's going to be backed up by dirt as well. There's not going to be a bullet go through that wall.
Okay.
The containment is military-grade armor, and it deflects into a containment vehicle, which allows the projectile to, through centrifugal force, just die and falls down into a retrieval and gets put out the back of the store into a barrel, a recycle barrel, basically. And it's all contained. There's no lead exposure. There's nothing that's going to be contaminated to the neighborhood. We're going to do preliminary studies for environmental contamination of lead, and we'll continue to do that as we go along. The filtration system costs about $750,000. It's climate controlled. It circulates the air every 86 seconds through a filtration system. There will be no contamination outside of the building. There won't be any sound contamination outside the building. The traffic on 152 is going to be louder than what you're going to be hearing in our showroom, let alone outside the building.
Well, if I recall, Gun World in Del City, it's in a pretty much a neighborhood area.
Yeah, they basically have the same style of range for the building.
H&H is not really, but I've been at both facilities, and you can't even hardly hear it at H&H. You can't even hardly hear it, if you're sitting in the restaurant.
And our facility is that much bigger and that much better.
And same way with Gun World, you can't hear it from the outside. So.
Yeah, if you're in the showroom, you don't hear that. You can hardly hear the guns firing. As a point of clarification, too, this land is not zoned for housing, so the prospect of Section 8 housing being put here, if this went away, current zoning would not allow residential at all.
I'm going to move for approval.
Second.
I have a comment, though, before the vote. I was impressed by the petition for approval of zoning change and the number of signatures, except when this gentleman that lived on Ambassador came in to protest it. But when I read what it is they signed, is that you're going to rezone this to include the following: participant, recreational, indoor entertainment. That doesn't describe at all what it is that they're going to do. It's not, it has no relevance what you've just described, what you're doing, and I give no credit whatsoever to any of this petition because you didn't tell them that you're going to put an indoor gun range in there. It's indoor entertainment.
Sir, if I may respond, I would remind the commission that this request agenda item was at our initiative. The verbiage and terminology.
No.
Wait, let him finish, Bob.
Huh?
Let him finish.
Well, but, okay. All right.
The verbiage and terminology is the verbiage best considered through the use of staff, because realistically they work with this every day. In fact, the petitioners who signed did know we were going to put a gun range in. This has been a long-term goal of what's going on, especially through our educational outreach, through hunter education, safety, and NRA training since the original PUD. This came about because we just wanted to confirm that changes the city has made over the last 6 years still allowed the original PUD to move forward as we built this facility. So it was not, I can't help the verbiage, but that's the verbiage y'all used for us to be able to do this.
So you see my point?
I do see, yes, sir. But this has always been our goal. We are not trying to just, come around behind anybody. Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Everybody ready? Cast your votes. And it is continued to January 10th, unless someone wants to make an opposing motion. You want to make a motion to deny? No? Okay. If we don't get a majority of 5 on the commission, then items automatically continue to the next meeting. Sure, come to the microphone.
The petition was not circulated by us. It was circulated by the former president of the Homeowners Association there, and he's the one that collected all the signatures on that petition. Okay. He confirmed to each one of these people what we were doing and why we were doing it. When we were being open with them, we wanted to make sure that they were okay with it before we even proceed with this proceeding.
Okay, thank you.
Item 32 is PUD 1476, application by 164th and Western LLC, care of Hewitt Solis, to rezone 16300 Northwest Avenue from PUD 1362, PUD 1476, and Ward 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Commission, Brian Kuhn with Hewitt Zollers represents the applicant. This property you saw back in 08 was a little bit different scenario. We're coming back with a new concept now with townhomes. The current PUD allows 10.75 dwelling units per acre. We're now at 5, so we've gone down on our density. I'll get right to the TEs. TE 1 and 2 we're okay with. 3 and 4, back when we did this originally, the city had just completed Western and 164th and didn't put in bridges wide enough to put in sidewalks. It drops off. It's a lot of flood zone. So we agreed that if there was ever sidewalk to be put in on Western, we'd do a fee in lieu instead of having to build a bridge. So we'd like to just actually delete 3 and 4 and leave the language in the PUD as is, that we will do that fee in lieu for Western. 5, we agree with. 6, I would like to amend that to have a 15-foot alley. I talked with JJ yesterday. There's very few. It's not like it's a real long street with a lot of garages on the alley, so he was okay with the 15, but I know I need your okay. 7 we're okay with, and 8 we're okay with. So.
Chairman, if we don't have any protests, that like.
Well, it looks like the staff was pretty specific about sidewalks. Let's have that conversation.
We would just prefer that our standard language regarding sidewalks be in the PUD, that they be provided by whom, it doesn't matter, but we just prefer that sidewalk be required on Western. It's already there, so you really don't have to do anything there, and on 164th.
What about the?
Well, there's not, I don't believe there is sidewalk on Western. I don't think. I think you got a bridge there that the sidewalk doesn't go across. I believe in 164th is all flood zone, so we could not put a sidewalk on 164th at all without going through a FEMA. I mean, 164th's probably 1/8 of a mile north of us. It's just included in the legal because that's the last piece of this property. So, again, I don't think we can afford to put the sidewalk across a bridge on Western. City didn't choose to do it when they did the project. So that's why, again, why we got it approved that way in 08.
Mr. Chairman,
I believe on the other side, yes. And that's why we agreed back in 08, that we weren't going to have to do a sidewalk on the south side of 164th. As you can see, it's a very wide flood zone.
JJ, is Lance gone out to get some?
He's going to verify. We both believe that there's already sidewalks on Western. He's going to verify.
Okay.
Can't they do fee in lieu of sidewalks?
It's done usually when you're expecting that there will be a road widening and the sidewalk will be coming soon, and it's part of a bond issue, so that you don't build a sidewalk and then have the city come along, 9 months later with a widening project, take the sidewalk out and then build another one again.
So
But Western's already widened to that 164th Street, so they're not going to come back in and undo anything at this point.
And when they put the bridge in at Western, did they make provisions, room for a sidewalk to go across the bridge?
I have to ask JJ and Lance, they just checked on it.
There is a sidewalk on Western, but it stops when it gets to the bridge.
Okay.
So really, it's already there. I was thinking we were going to put in some, but we didn't want to go across the bridge, so.
So we can take the Ts and leave them as they are,
Yeah.
right?
No, because we don't want to build a sidewalk on 164th, because it's all flood zone.
I thought this language referred to Western only, no?
Well, the second T talks about 164th. The language in the PUD.
Number 4.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was focused on number 3.
We could probably just take out sidewalk language on the arterials. Take out the sidewalk language on arterials. We've got interior sidewalks.
Well, the point of sidewalks is the connectivity between different development types, or similar development types. And, we understand that there are going to be obstructions from time to time in the form of floodplains, but you can't have continuity if you consider that an impenetrable barrier. It's just a reality of the terrain of the city.
Does beg the question, though, of in general, I agree with that exactly, but it begs the question, why when we widened, and when I say we, that's universal we for the city, widened 164th Street, took the sidewalk up to this point, north and south, and left this open.
That is a philosophy that we're trying to change.
Well, I've got a problem with if we won't do it, why are we trying to make
I understand. That's the difficulty.
I obviously like to carry out the policies of the city where it's appropriate, but I'm afraid I've hit a bridge here. I'm going to agree with Brian on the TEs, I think, in this case. As much as I have been historically a proponent of sidewalks for 20 years, in this case,
Eliminate T 3 and 4.
I want to modify it as Brian asks and do, you said fee in lieu?
Fee in lieu. Yes.
On Western, yeah, but what he was just saying, why pay a fee in lieu if there's a sidewalk already there on Western? So what we're saying is...
So drop Ts 3 and 4.
Yeah, just amend, what we'll do is amend the document, take out any requirement for sidewalks on the arterial streets, because they're already there.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right, do we have a motion?
We have a motion to approve the applications as deleting T 3 and 4, and as conditioned by Brian.
And the 15-foot alley.
And the 15-foot alley.
Right.
I looked at the alley, this is two ways, and they have 15-foot setbacks on the front, but the garages are not facing, so I think the 15-foot on the front is applicable. 15-foot alleys are good because they have two ways in and out.
Okay. Okay, well, a motion is second to approve item 32, deleting TEs 3 and 4. Cast your votes. James? Thank you. Since you made the motion, I thought you'd want to vote for it.
And that did include TE number 3 and 6, saying that they can be 15-foot instead of 20. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
33?
Continued 34, 35, 36. Item 33 is PUD 1477, application by Harvey Sparkman to rezone 1540 Southeast 29th Street from I-2 to PUD 1477, Ward 7.
Dwight has a seat back there.
It was excellent, thank you very much.
For the record, my name is Dwight Butler with Anchor Engineering. I represent the applicant on this item. We have no TEs, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
No one signed up.
Move approval. Oh, I'd like to ask just one general question.
Yes, sir.
Why do we, this is, I guess, for the staff, why do we go with a PUD on this? If everything wrong around it is industrial? Is there any reason for the PUD?
Limiting the uses would be one.
Well, to answer your question, Mr. Williams, when we originally looked at rezoning it, they were trying to build a second building for storage.
Yes.
Staff thought that was too much land to rezone as straight zoning at one time without a traffic impact analysis and such, so we elected to rezone the small portion in the middle, agreeing to come back at a later date with a PUD, which is why we're here.
Okay. Mr. Commissioner Gales wanted that question asked on his behalf. I make a motion that we approve the application estimate. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve item 33. Cast your votes, and that's approved. James, are you voting? Thank you.
Back on top.
Thank you very much.
Did it again?
Items 34 through 37 have been continued until January the 10th. Item 38 is V4 5803, application by Christopher Jones for a variance to the subdivision regs to permit a certificate of occupancy at 10609 Granada Drive in Rio de Bella Addition.
We've actually got 3 consecutive cases, same issue, same neighborhood.
The question is, what was the result of the hearing on Friday, December 7th?
Well, we do have an order which requires First American to pull a work order by next Friday, which is December 17th, for the roadway work out there, and they have until January 30th of 2013 to pull a work order for the drainage swale. And the settlement agreement calls for the work to be completed within 150 days of the work order being issued. So that was the result of the hearing last Friday.
Is it your recommendation that we approve these 3?
You'd be Mr. Jones?
Yes, I would.
That is up to the commission to make that determination.
I'm going to make it easy. I think we ought to just approve all 3 in a single motion, items 38, 39, and 40. Approve.
I think you need to do separate motions for each item.
Darn. I was trying to
Make a motion that we approve item 38.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve item 38. Approved.
Item 39.
Make a motion to approve item 39.
Second.
Motion to approve item 39. Cast your votes. Approved.
Are you item 40? Disapprove. I'll make a motion we approve item 40 as well.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 40. Cast your votes, and that's approved. Thank you for sitting through the meeting.
I'm sure it was educational.
Yeah, you learned a lot about local government today.
Yeah, thank you for coming back.
Item 41 is ordinance for hearing, amending the regs for the downtown design districts.
No one signed up to present it or protest it, as far as I can tell.
What's the action to move to approve it?
Yes.
So, move to approve it. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 41. Cast your votes. And that concludes the public hearing. Planning Commission committees. Mike's the only one who ever has a committee, and he's not here. Planning Commission members.
Yes, I was at a restaurant Friday night, and restaurant was full, and 6 people come and sat at our table while we were waiting to be seated. We got to talking, and I said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Memphis, Tennessee." I said, "These folks are from Denver, Colorado, and the other group was from Fort Worth, Texas." I said, "What are you doing here?" They said, "Well, we wanted to get together for Thanksgiving, and we wanted a really nice place to go." I said, "What made you choose Oklahoma City?" They said, "Well, we've heard so much about Oklahoma City, we decided to come here. We've been here for 3 days, and we sure have not been disappointed." You know, and I guarantee you, 10 years ago, that couldn't have been said.
Memphis, Denver, and Fort Worth. That's pretty cool.
And I'll add to that, Jim. We had a christening with my granddaughter from London, and my son and his wife and kids came over. Her son from San Francisco and her daughter from Southern California. I mean, her sister and her brother came from Southern California and San Francisco. Never had been in Oklahoma City. They were here for 2 or 3 days, and they just kind of toured all around. And they just fell off their chair about how much is going on in this city. And their comment was, well, the twin sister said, I really would like to move here. I mean, I've not heard those words, in my, for 25 years, at all. I mean, it's really quite amazing.
This young man that was from Fort Worth, and I forgot what oil company he works with, but he works with a pretty good-sized oil company there. He said our president would like to move to Oklahoma City.
It's, and the other comment that I have with Planning Commission members is that I'd like to wish the staff and the director happy holidays, and to thank you publicly for all of your hard work that you do in preparing applications and dealing with the applicants, et cetera, and also to wish all my fellow planning commissioners happy holidays, happy new year, and good health.
You're here. Well said. Okay, Planning Department.
I'd just return that
Back at you.
well-wishing, so appreciate everybody's help. Efforts. It's been an interesting year, and I'm sure next one will be no less interesting. It'll be quite a lot of fun, especially with, we don't do this very often, but next year's the sort of culmination of all the work on Plan OKC, so it's going to be a very busy year. I don't have any other announcements at this point.
Development Services, Municipal Counselor. I, too, would wish everyone a happy holiday season. Thank the staff. You guys are really great to work with. You give us great support, good data, usually good advice, and it's a lot of fun working with you. See you next year.